YouTube. I gotta wait for Mario to finish his discipline go every single week.
Episode 67.
Are you drunk?
Episode 67.
What did you have to drink before the discipline go?
Yeah.
I don't know.
What's
I
the
fell
next
asleep.
one?
I took a nap. I never take naps.
You know, there was another day you said that.
No, because
I
these
know.
allergies, they suck.
I know.
Yeah.
Well, I'm saying that maybe you can't say I never take naps anymore because you are sometimes taking naps.
Twice.
In a
Episode
week.
67. Whatever. Yeah, episode 67,
Yeah.
leading on empty, second section that we're covering.
And we have one more after this, right? Or
Yeah.
two more? I think it's just one more. I think it's
so.
one more.
Are you sure?
Well, no, I'm
7
not sure.
through.
Yeah, I think it is. I think it was like 7 through 10. Yeah, pretty sure.
No, we have 2 more.
2 more. Okay.
7 through 9, and then 10 and 11. So, yeah. So we got 2 more.
Okay.
Are you ready?
Yeah, I'm ready. I've been ready. I was born ready.
Check.
Do I have gum instead?
No, don't chew in the speakers. I mean, my headphones. I can't talk.
I went back and watched Mila on YouTube, and I just think she's a star.
She's so cute.
She's so cute. I was like, I love her.
Okay, you went back and just watched your dog?
Yeah,
You're like,
the only reason.
your dog mom!
And she's just up there like,
It's because you put her up there.
I know! I love her.
So really, it was you, wasn't her.
Get out of here.
All right, here we go.
So
3.
2.
1.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Made for More Consulting podcast, where we're about leadership and personal development to help get better as leaders so that we can lead the people around us better. Welcome back, Adina.
I'm glad to be here.
Tiana, my wife, and who else is here? Sam.
Sam.
Episode 67. It's going to be our second podcast on Leading on Empty, and it is a book by Wayne Cordero. I'm going to make sure you go pick it up. And yeah, we are on episode 67.
Yeah. I mean, like, this is some great content to jump into. It is really good content, but it feels so like the early warning signs of depression. I'm like, good gracious.
Yeah, but people don't pay attention to it.
I know, it's
That's
great.
why he
It's
makes
good
millions
stuff.
off this book, because we're all burnout. We don't listen to ourselves.
It's true.
So,
Yeah. You know, I just heard something about how we lean toward the feelings that we're most comfortable with. And so often those are fear-based, you know, chaos, fears, you know, all different kinds of fears, instead of leaning towards like our goals and our dreams and our, you know, our values. And that's what I thought about when I was thinking about this book.
that's
What
sad.
happens? Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
We don't listen to our bodies.
So if this is your first time listening, you go back and listen to episode 65. It's finding out a little bit about who we are, and it's called Why I'm Made for More. Excuse me. So, what about last week? Can you recap last week? I got a loogie in my throat. I can't hear.
Good gracious. Well, last week we opened, I don't know, we talked to us about his story. I don't really remember last week.
Yeah, well, we
Good
were
gracious.
just talking about. You've already said that 3 times.
You're on a roll tonight.
We talked about just the early signs of depression and anxiety and how they both come with burnout. And if we're not careful, we are using adrenaline to stay alive rather than serotonin and dopamine and all that.
I'm so glad you
fun
remembered all
scientific
that.
stuff. Yeah.
Next time I'll reread so I can be prepared.
So
for
I think this section, chapters 4 through 6, have a lot more for us to discuss. And so yeah, we don't read the entire book. So here we go, episode 67, chapter 4, called Early Warning Signs. And he's talking about burnout, which also leads to depression and anxiety.
Yeah. So are you going to read like all 11 of them, or
We'll probably
are you
just
gonna talk about some?
we'll go down the list, and then if you want to stop it when we can. I think this chapter starts off with us hearing warning signs of depression and burnout. Just like he talks about the tsunami warning when a 9.0 earthquake hit, and it starts to have a ripple effect into the ocean, and then into the islands, and he just says, hey, here's the warning signs, you got to pay attention to these. And so early signs of depression and burnout. Number 1,
Sense of hopelessness.
feeling like there's no way out, or hey, I just want to give up. I really don't care. So if you recognize some of these as you're listening to this, maybe put a tally mark.
Well, and I think that with this one, this one was like, this is what I identify with, but it wasn't like a sense of giving up, there's no way out. It was, it's never going to get any better than this.
This is as good as it
This
gets.
is it, right here. Like
I'm not laughing at you.
no, you can totally laugh. But yeah, but
I
I mean, that was it though, is that like, I was in this like, this is it. Like, it's never going to be any better than this. And it is a great feeling of hopelessness. And I don't know if I would have called it that, but that's what it was. That was it.
Yeah,
100%.
I think people in this sense of hopelessness use the word, I feel stuck, or I can't grow. And again, made for more, you're made for more. Sense of hopelessness, try to give hope to the hopeless.
Yeah, you
Sounds weird.
you can't see beyond what's happening in your life right now.
Yeah, so number 2, frequent tears.
Mm-hmm.
I put tears more often than usual. You might be someone who cries, but it's more often than usual. I mean, to me, it reminds me of someone who's pregnant. They cry at every commercial, cry at every, and I'm not making fun. I'm just
No,
saying
but
this.
I think that is like one of those things that like, if that's your go-to, if that's how you release your emotion, then it probably is true, know, for some people.
Yep.
And I think it's just because when your emotional cup is, more full, then you don't have anywhere to process all of that. So you just, everything seems bigger than it is.
Yep. Number 3, difficulty concentrating. No emotional energy to stay focused at what is on hand.
Yeah, 100%. No emotional energy. That, I mean, I can totally see that.
Yeah, because you're doing work, but you're not doing work.
You just don't care.
Yeah. A lot of these come down to hopelessness, frequent tears. Well, 1 and 3 so far is like, I don't care.
Yeah.
Number 4, decision making is hard or difficult.
Right. Again, I think it's that, it says rational decision making goes out the window, but I also think you're just kind of like, why does it matter?
Yeah.
I can't make a decision because it doesn't really matter. It just, everything goes back to, I don't care.
Yeah, exactly. That's interesting. That decision making would be on the fact that, on the radar of depression.
Gosh, even if you've ever been around anybody who's just having a day, having a minute, and you're like, hey, where do you want to go eat? And they're like, I can't even decide that. Like, I cannot, that is too much for me to decide.
That's us every Monday.
Yeah.
For any time we go eat
Yeah.
anything.
Well, that's because it creates an argument. That's not because,
Yeah. Number 5, irritability. Feel trapped in everything you're doing and you become irritable. And the hard part is that's with everyone around you, regardless of if it's your best friend or whatever, you're just irritable.
Right, your kids, your family,
Yep.
the people that are driving next to you in the car.
Number 6,
Insomnia. Just can't sleep because you're dreading the next day or decisions.
that sucks. That never affected me, I don't think.
Yeah,
I think
well,
I'd wake up early, but it wasn't,
I think that is more when somebody, like, your mind just keeps going, I think which I feel like he probably says. I think it can also be the opposite, is that a lot of times when people are depressed, they sleep way more.
Yeah.
And so I think it kind of affects you one or the other.
I think that's what I would never sleep more, but I think that's what I hear. And I don't sleep more, 2 naps because of my freaking allergies. But like, I think that's what I hear more of rather than insomnia. It's more of, and I mean, I have some friends that say, man, I can't sleep at night. I'm waking up with this, my chest hurts. Yeah, I get it. But more so, I'm hearing people just staying in bed longer, not wanting to
They
get up.
sleep more, yeah. Which I think that goes right into the next one, which is lower activity levels.
Yeah, you just don't have an interest in doing anything.
You don't care.
Yep. So really, we're 7 in. If you really don't care when you're doing something, you might want to consider asking yourself, am I depressed? Number 8.
Feeling alone, you want people around you, but you don't want to be around people.
I've totally been there. Seriously, I've been there where I'm like, I feel alone, but I don't want these people around me.
Or you're surrounded by people and you still feel alone.
Yeah.
I think that's
the key.
That's a good definition for that one.
Number 9, lack of marital attraction. Son of a gun.
That one made me laugh out loud.
I know, I remember you telling me that. So, you just not wanting to be around your spouse. That could come in many different shapes and forms, but if it's because you're depressed.
But I think too, it goes back to the lowered energy levels,
Yeah.
And you just don't care. Like, you don't want to have to invest anything into that relationship because you don't have anything to invest.
In anything, yeah. Again, you just don't want to do
Right.
anything.
Right.
Number 10, eating disorders. You use food or lack of food to cope with the way you're feeling. I didn't think about this one until last week when we were going through it, that that's a dangerous place as far as like I guess begin starving yourself, but then to go, I just want to eat.
Well, yeah, I think it goes both ways. I've seen people that when they go in when they're stressed, they don't eat. Like they feel sick to their stomach all the time, so they just can't eat.
See, I
so
want to eat
get,
when I'm stressed.
Yeah, they
I'd
lose
rather
all
just
this
go
weight.
freaking eat.
And then you have people the opposite who they eat their feelings. You know,
I think that's
or
good.
what I wanted to say too is that this is when people drink their feelings. People
It's
go
addiction, right?
This is
Yeah.
where your addiction comes in, because it can be anything that you're addicted to can come out in that. When you don't really care. That's all. All you're focused on.
And this last one was interesting when he wrote about aches and pains, the heartburn, the ulcers, the high blood pressure.
Because stress affects your body.
Yeah.
Affects every part of your body.
Yeah. So this chapter is just telling us don't get used to the feeling. Don't get used to the feeling one of these ways. Like if you feel one of these ways, don't just say, oh, don't just play it off.
Right.
You can go check and see, hey, is there more work that needs to be done? Am I not wanting to be involved in this? Am I not wanting to be around people? Am I feeling lonely? If you start to have more one of those, you need to put some time in to go, am I on the verge of burning out, or have I gone past it and I'm just numb?
Well, what we talked about last week was it's not something that you don't just jump into burnout. It's a slow drift.
Yeah.
And so I think it's hard to sometimes stop and say, where was I a year ago? Where was I 2 years ago?
Yeah.
So 2 years ago, I enjoyed being around people. I liked being around my spouse. I could easily make decisions.
Yeah.
And kind of compare it to that.
So if we go into leadership, if you're a boss, an employee, an owner, whatever you are, I think that if you're dealing with any of these, you're probably a drag to your team or your leader or your partners because you're not taking care of yourself. So
yeah,
again,
and I
you're
also
just a
think
drag.
that as a leader, of a business owner, is that watch for these in your employees.
Yeah.
Because I
exactly.
think that's a key thing to be able to see is, are they having a hard time making decisions? Are they coming in late more often? Are they having marriage issues?
Yeah.
And could you combine some of those things together and think, wow, they're leaning on burnout here, and
Yeah.
then how have I contributed to that as a leader, and what can I do to help them?
Yeah, and I think as employees and owners or leaders, that even if you lead a small team of 2 or 5, if you have a feeling that someone's off,
It's probably
check
true.
on them. Yes, please check on them.
Yeah.
One of the things I heard this week that I wanted to share on that part right there of early warning signs, I was listening to a doctor. I can't remember the doctor's name. I'll pull it up and
You sound like me. I'm always like, I was listening to a podcast. I was reading, and
Yeah.
I don't ever remember. Like,
So
being
his name is Dr. John Delaney. He works for the Entree Leadership group, and he said a freaking survey came out in 2019 that he thought, or a study that he thought would change the United States, but COVID hit, so COVID overshadowed the study. And 3 straight years in a row, the life expectancy in the United States went down. 3 years in a row, and it wasn't because of accidents, anything. It was, number 1 was suicide, number 2 was like your heart disease, lungs, the failure of the organs, and number 3 was it was something else. It's suicide, but he just said basically it's we're doing it to ourselves. The most richest country in the world, and we're lowering the life expectancy. And he was saying because of the fact that we're ignoring the signs that we need people, we need community. He went on and on about you have to have people in your life because that's the way you were built. Number 2, it's almost what you had said earlier, or it is what you're saying earlier. If you're not active, you're not taking care of your body. Your body is not putting off the negative. I don't even know what you call it. Like you have to burn those chemicals out of your body when you're working out,
Right.
when you're thinking, when you're getting your serotonin levels, when you're using adrenaline. If you don't use those correctly, he said you're basically killing yourself.
Yep.
And you said it earlier. It's little by little that we're beginning to kill ourselves because we're not listening to our body, and we're okay with it.
Right. Instead of going for a walk, we lay in bed.
Yeah.
And it just happens so fast.
Yeah.
In the sense of, like, all of a sudden one day you're like, I haven't taken a walk in 6 months. I've laid in bed every day.
But you feel like bad or ugly or whatever you want to call it. So that was chapter 4. Chapter 5 is called Solitary Refinement. This chapter is all about understanding what your soul and mind needs when it comes to solitude. So he talks about being in a monastery with monks. He said spending time alone to know who you are is what we need to change. We need to change things in life to go, I need to spend some time by myself. If no change is made, then we're going to continue to lead on empty until we burn out. So one of the quotes that he says, you want to read that?
I knew I needed to restructure the way that I lived. It wouldn't be an immediate change.
So again, you said that earlier. It's that slow routine that we get to burnout, but it's the other way around too. The only way you're going to come back from burnout is little by little. You got to build those small wins.
It reminds me of, when somebody says, I need to make my health a priority, I need to make myself a priority, is that happens in like little decisions that you make every single day.
Yeah.
And I think that's what it is. He made it a change to put himself first.
Yeah, and the reason the whole book is written is because we find ourselves at burnout level already on empty, and then you think it's going to change overnight. There is no quick fix. It's small wins.
It took you 14 years to get into this mess. It's going to take you at least 6 months to get out.
Yep, exactly. So he talks about being in a monastery with monks. Like I said, he's learning from them. He had no phone. He couldn't talk to anyone. He just had to reflect. He had a journal. He spent some time alone. And listen to this quote. He says, "These days I spent at the monastery taught me the difference between solitude and isolation. They may contain similar characteristics, but in reality, they are worlds apart." And this is what we put on our social media this week, and this is one of my favorite quotes today, and it's this.
Yeah.
Solitude is a chosen separation for refining your soul. Isolation is what you crave when you neglect the first.
I thought that was so good. That's the first thing I said to you when I got here tonight was, I highlighted that. I thought that was great, so I liked seeing it on our social media.
Yeah, and I was going to ask you what you thought about that, because again, so many people say I'm isolating myself. Okay, well, you do have, if you're isolating, then you do have the option to choose solitude over isolation. So solitude to me is taking that time to grow, to figure out what is going to make you be in a better place. So if you're going to isolate, then you're choosing to be alone. You're probably choosing to, I don't know, just stay in bed, watch Netflix, whatever it is. Where solitude, you can watch Netflix, you can limit how much you do. You can say, hey, I'm going to journal today. I'm going to spend time by myself to grow. So.
Well, in here, one of the things he talks about is what shapes your soul,
Mm-hmm.
and how how you have that 5% that only you can do, and basically that was your relationships.
Yeah.
You
yeah.
know?
And we're going to get to that. I don't want you to give it away.
Okay, well.
Because that's one of our action
Right
steps.
there.
You're trying to
Well,
give it
I'm just
away.
saying this is where it is in the book. It's
Yeah.
the same place in the book. You didn't go in order.
Anyways, whatever.
Okay, good.
And he talks about solitude, rowing a boat, that if we don't look up, we don't know where we're going. And it's the same way with our soul. If you don't pay attention to who you're becoming, one of these days you're going to look up and you're not going to know who's in the mirror. And that's, again, I think what's crazy is I believe we've all been there, and the work to go back it's not easy, but it's worth it. It is so worth it. Then there's a couple of sections in here I want to talk about in this chapter: concerns or responsibilities. Again, another quote that I love. And if we don't understand the difference between concerns and responsibilities, we can drive ourselves, again, crazy and possibly to burnout. You want to read that quote? I changed the word business, ministry to business.
Learning the difference between a concern and a responsibility may save your business, your family, and your sanity.
So what do you think the difference between concern and responsibility?
Well, I was going to read how he described it because I thought it was really good. It was basically something you have control over.
Yeah.
You know.
So like if they.
I like the examples that he gave.
Because he said like if the neighbor's yard is messy, that's not your responsibility. That's a concern.
And don't get yourself all tied up in a knot over a concern.
Yeah. But he says we're in our culture we are warriors, not warriors. Worriers.
Yeah.
And so you like to worry about everything. Because what because I can hear it. This person's yard's a mess, so they're going, oh, what if something happened to them? What if? And then you start to build this story, and you're going, you just worry.
Well,
what if they're just lazy and they're not freaking cleaning their yard? That's your concern. It's not your responsibility.
But I think it's the same thing when somebody's like driving down the road fast. You're like, well, I need to make them slow down. They're going to hurt somebody. Well, it's not your job. It's not your responsibility. I'm not a worrier, and so that I'm like, the yard's messy. I don't care. If their yard's messy, it's more of a personal irritation because I don't like how it looks.
Yeah,
You know.
true. I
It's
just
a
think
concern.
when it comes to leadership, and you transfer this to business, I mean, I don't know. The way I said it in ministry was going, okay, if this person is having a tough time, and I mean, it's none of my business, and it's nothing bad. It's a concern. It's not a responsibility. Now, if someone on my team is injured or hurt or is going through a tough time, and no one's showing up for them, it's my responsibility to show up because they are on my team. There's a difference between concern and responsibility. If you don't understand, you think that everything's your problem. Everybody's problem is your and you have to fix it.
Right, and you take all of that on.
You
don't. Not your job.
And I think that if you built your life on fixing other people's problems when you don't show up because you're trying to take care of yourself, they get all pissed off because you're trying to help yourself. Good luck. You need to tell them, hey, I'm trying to take care of myself. So learn the difference between concern and responsibility. So then there's another section in there, Dina, it's called What Matters Most. He begins to dial in what we need to figure out. We have to eliminate all the extra junk in our lives that drain us. He said this: I had come to grips with what I only could accomplish. These things cannot be delegated, ignored, or what did he? How do you say that word? Slot off onto someone else.
Sloughed off.
Sloughed.
I don't know what it is.
So if we dial in on this,
Off.
then all the fluff I put in our lives needs to be removed, and the answer for this question for each one of us is different. It leads to the next few points, and this is what you were talking about.
Right.
So,
when he says, like, if you had a month to live, what's important?
did you look up the definition? Oh, I thought you.
It means but what I think what he said was if you had a month to live. Basically, it is your relationships.
Yeah.
It has nothing to do with anything else.
Yeah, that's it. And so he went into the last section of this chapter, which I think every single leader, every single employee, whoever, every single person can learn something from the most important 5% is what it's called.
Well, I thought that he did a good job. I'm just gonna
Go for it.
like what he said for what matters most is he said, for him it was a relationship with God because he is a Christian, a healthy relationship with his spouse, an authentic family, a God-pleasing ministry, and a physically healthy body and a creative soul, and taking time with his friends and family. So, I mean, I don't think that really changes for many people. I think most people, their spouse, their family, some of those things.
Yeah.
But it's all about your relationships with yourself and with other people.
And we're going to learn that that's the top 5% that we usually disregard because we're so busy with the other stuff. But again, if you can go in ahead of your week going, these are the most important things that are going to matter to me, then you protect those things and you work on those things rather than the rest of it. And so he calls it the most important 5%. And at the end, we're going to go over the action steps, and this is going to be one of them. But listen to what he says. He says this: 85% of what we do can be done by anyone.
Let's say that again.
85% of what Adina
That
does
is huge.
can be done by 85% of what I do
quit
can
trying
be
to do
done.
everything.
Yeah. And he says this is what we fill our day with because it requires so little of us. So the most amount of what we do requires so little of us. I think we get the ego shot of, hey, I can do this. This is only what I can do. He's saying 85% be done by anybody. So
I think that 85% is what makes people miserable.
Yeah, that's what he's going to get to, right? Yes. So next.
That's what I wrote on mine.
Because your 85% might be someone else's 5% that they're dialed in on, and that's what they're waiting for someone to give them. And anyway, so 85% of what we do can be done by anybody. Ready? Number 10, or the 10%. 10% of what we do, someone else with training should be able to accomplish. So we get to this, I think, so he says we do 85% of this all day because it requires so little of us. The 10%, some of us get to that because we just maybe want to do it. So it requires training though. So
I think that it also too has I think that is some of how you're created, like what you're gifted at, what you have decided to grow inside of you. I mean, as well as other things, but
yeah,
a lot of that, because I feel like most anything that, even with training, I feel like then that 85% could still do it. If I could train other people,
right.
then 85% of people could be trained.
Yeah.
So I didn't agree with the way he phrased that, but I understand what he's saying.
Yeah. I think to me 10% is I don't want to do the lawn. I care less about my lawn. I'm not trying to win lawn of the month. That is a waste of my time because
I think that's 85%.
I
think that goes in the 85%.
Yeah. But anyways, so 85% anyone else can do. 10% can do with training, and then listen to this. 5% of what I do can only be done by me. So if neglected, this 5% would impact the rest of your life. Most of us neglect this part of our lives because it requires intentional work, which is no one else is going to make you grow. So if you have a problem with personal development or growth, that is not your boss's fault. It's not anyone else's fault except yours, because you have to grow. You have to put forth the effort. Your relationships, with my spouse, with my kids, no one else can put that work in except you. I think your attitude, no one else can bring your attitude to the table. You can't, no one can make you show up for work. So 5%, the final 5% is only what you can do. And what is it? So, can you read that last quote? Or unless you had something else to say.
Nothing becomes a life change until you assign the highest value you can to it. Your faith, your marriage, your family, and your health have to not only be priorities, but be higher priorities than anything else, including work, money, promotion, or position.
Yeah, so at the end of this chapter, I would just ask what's important to you and why.
And whenever I do time management stuff with people, that's what we always go back and we do their priorities, and they're always like, my husband, my kids, and well, how much time do you spend with them? Intentional time.
They just say that because it's the right answer, but they can't give you practical steps.
Right. Well, but I think what it is they don't realize that they need to schedule time and be intentional about that. They think that just having that priority, just my husband's a priority. Great. He can be a priority.
Yeah.
But how do you put action behind that? Because if you're not putting any action behind it, then really you're not doing anything.
Yeah, that's right.
Same thing with growing your business, but that's a whole other issue.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think that's really, really good. So that was chapter 5. Chapter 6, the final chapter for tonight, is finding the still waters. Again, we're going to have some action steps here. He says this: your soul. This is his psychologist talking. He says, your soul, my psychologist friend explained, is like a battery that is discharges each time you give life away, and it needs to be recharged regularly. You haven't given it time to recharge, and that doesn't happen overnight. It's a gradual, slow recharge. And I keep thinking, I just wrote down the example for people to understand. I mean, yes, you can have a car battery die and it sucks. But for us, like if it's a everyday thing that we carry, our phone, if our phone loses charge, we start asking, hey, do you have a charger I can use?
Right.
Hey, I need to find a charger. Or hey, I forgot my charger.
But then what happens is it will die. My kids do this all the time, and they plug it in and it's trying to charge, but then they want to use it at the same time. So it's trying to. It's like you're like hold on a minute.
Yes.
Give it a rest. Give it some time. So I think that's a picture of what we do.
Exactly. And what's important to us has already lost its charge. It's our life, and at some point, burnout's going to take over. And again, you cannot be recharged, and try to do all the things. And that's where burnout happens. And you have to put some things in place that can help change that. So there's too much good info for us not to read this part, Adina. I'll read this part. He says, so how do I recharge my soul? I asked. For 2 months, do as many things that can fill your tank as you can. That is how you recharge. Here's the main part. Each of us has an internal emotional reservoir. On the top side, there's an input, and on the bottom, a drain. Certain activities will drain you more than fill you, and others will fill you more than drain you. Some tasks will contribute to you, and others will take from you. And then he goes on to say what fills you and what drains you. So if I was to ask you right now, what fills you up?
I actually did my work in here. So I put I love to be outside, conversation with friends, creativity, planning, and dreaming.
Okay, then what drains you?
I put small task, doing any task, the 85%.
And being
well, I mean, I
not
think
being
about
rushed, but slow people.
Slow people, that drains me. But I think it's like anything, the whole checking emails and making a checklist, and heaven forbid I had to make a spreadsheet and I had to cut and paste stuff, and I'm that is the dumbest thing on earth to me. Well, that's what I was gonna say, for me to do, because it absolutely drains me, and I know where I'm at now that it gives other people life.
Yeah.
And
that's
so
what I was gonna say.
I'm just here
85%
just mad.
You're trying to do.
Mad.
It's 5% for someone else.
I'm gonna say that's 10% for someone else.
Okay.
So I still say that, like,
true. I get
right.
what you're saying.
To me, that 5% is if I died tomorrow,
Yes.
like nobody else can fill that. Nobody else can kiss my kids and
Yeah,
tell
you're
them
right.
good night
Yeah.
and fill that spot like their mom can.
Yeah, true.
You know, let's just get real sad real quick. But that's, I think about that tit. Etienne is gonna cry.
I know.
Are y'all
But
emotionally
that,
empty?
but that's, yeah, that's the 5%.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
is that if you were gone, nobody else can fill that role.
That's
They
true.
can do the task,
That's the 5%.
but they can't fill the role.
So that drains you.
Oh, yeah. And the more that I know that, the more that I hate doing these things.
Yeah. That's interesting. Because my draining are more relational. Like, I don't want to hear you complain about something you can control.
Yeah.
I get, like,
See, I got
confiding.
in one ear, out the other.
Yeah, confiding.
Talk all you want.
But I think the problem is being a pastor for so
Is
long.
that a concern or a responsibility?
Exactly. And I think that's where the pastor side of me, if you're in my circle, I don't mind because you're confiding and I'm trying to get advice or whatever, just hear you. But if you're a part of the crowd that's just going to complain, that is so draining to me because I don't want to be around that. I do not. I think I allowed that to be an unhealthy place in my life as a pastor because I took that home so much. Going, what is wrong with these people? What can I fix?
You call them out just a couple of times and they won't come
Yeah.
complain to you.
And now, that's why again some of this, the business exists is to go. You have to control. No one else controls this for you
What
except
are you doing about it?
Yes. And what fills me up, I think, is meeting with our team, meeting with individuals one-on-one to help them get better. I think it's what Maxwell said that, again, I got to stop saying I'm not a big fan of his. Some of the things that he said recently is more enlightening to go. When he said he was not a counselor, but he was an empowerer, I was like, that's me. Like, I had to stop in my tracks. And I was actually walking on the corner over here, and I stopped because I put it in my phone because I go, that's me. I'm not a pastor. I'm not a counselor. That was a season of life that's over, but I'm an empowerer. And I was like, that's it. And he quit being a pastor to do that, and he changed the course of his freaking career. But I think that fits me. I'm going, I'm a coach. I'm not a freaking counselor.
Imagine what people said when he was like, I'm going to quit pastoring because I'm going to go on and do something different.
Yeah, now he has over 100.
And you know, people were like, oh, what?
Yes. Yes.
You
So
go, John Maxwell.
that fills me up.
Exercise.
Exercise does.
Yeah, I think that's a big one for
Video
people.
games. Video games fill me up, which may seem dumb to some people, but I'm like, but that requires no use of my brain
It's like
or
a
whatever.
rest.
But it's a rest. But it's a refilling. Like that refills who I am, whether it's an hour or whatever. But some people like naps, and I don't. Like, I think that's a waste of time. That is a literal waste of time to me.
Well, I think that I think it's anything that you can do, like you're saying, video games, that you can focus on one thing and not have to think about anything else around you.
Yeah, yeah, and Jamie knows that on Saturdays I go, I hate freaking sitting here because I feel like I'm wasting time. But she'll remind me, this is intentional time that you're just sitting, like it's okay, and I have to remember that. And now, after 8 months or however many months I've been working on Made for More, I'm in a place where Saturday I can actually just sit there and go, I could care less about the rest of the world in a good way, meaning it's a concern. It's not a responsibility. Side interesting note. So Maxwell just turned 74, and Louis Giglio, he again another mentor. He just met him for the first time. He just introduced himself.
Wow.
I think a couple weeks ago, for the first time, and Louis said, I don't ever. He goes, never have I ever asked someone a question before they went up to speak. He said, we're backstage, and he goes, hey John, and John goes, hey Louis, it's so great to meet you. He knows who Louis is, and Louis knows who he is, and so they're in Atlanta. And Louis goes, hey, can I ask you a question? And he goes, and I guess he was like fanning. He was like a fan guy or whatever. And so Maxwell says, yeah, sure, go ahead. And Louis just said, hey, what do you wake up thinking? Every morning, what's the first thing you think about? And he just said, Maxwell looked at him and said, how can I get somebody to a better place? How can I serve someone today? And who is that going to be? And Louis said, that's how he wants to run his church. Is as soon as I wake up, who can I serve today? And who's it going to be? Specifically, write it down and go, that's who I'm going to serve.
I thought for sure he was going to say his sweet wife, because she like types out like on a typewriter still to this day all of his books. He writes them down and then she types them on a typewriter and then they send him in.
I bet you never mind. I was going to say she probably doesn't type as fast as she used to.
No, she probably doesn't.
You need to introduce her to like Siri.
How about we
or
get an assistant?
The voice to text.
Nope. He still does.
Anyways.
That's his system.
So, again, what fills you up, what drains you? He said, listen, I put this, listen to what he says. This describes me so many times. You ever read that?
Here are the hard facts. The busier I become, the less time I had for activities that replenish me. You can get along for a while with that, more drain than fill, but it will eventually catch up with you. It's like a car that someone drives for years without an oil change.
Have you ever killed a car?
God no, Mario, I'm too responsible.
Have either
for
one of
that.
y'all? You killed a car? Without
On purpose.
on purpose. I think that some people, like me, no lie. Right now, there's a lawnmower in our garage that I don't know how long it's been. What, 5 years? And I've never touched the oil. Never touched it. And it's gonna die at some point. But what I'm saying is, it's purposefully. There's a reason that there's oil in there. And again, he's saying there's a reason that you change your oil in your car.
But
There's a reason
but
you
that's
pay
not
attention
because
to
you're
it.
too busy. Like you're not changing your oil because you're too busy.
Well, true. But what I'm saying is, it's gonna die eventually.
It will, yeah.
Quicker.
But I think the thing I have a hard time with that is that you can't just say that the busier you become, the less time you have for activities that replenish you. Because if you're busy with things that do fill you up and give you purpose, if you've done what he says and you've set your values and you know you're on the right track, you've worked with Made for More, then you're not on the other side. So, that's where I feel like is kind of weird, is that you can be busy and be doing a lot of really good things and be in a really good place where you are.
Yeah, and I'm thinking, in my opinion, it was the whole, he's busier doing things that are
Right.
draining.
You totally can.
Yeah.
That can totally happen.
Yeah, so
Just say no.
I think we know, regardless of whatever we're doing, whatever career, it's gonna have moments that drain us. Like, it doesn't
Yes.
matter. Even Made for More is gonna have days that drain the crap out of us. But we have to be aware of the warning signs that are on the dash of your car.
Well, and I know I had to decide that 85% of the stuff that I hate doing, that I still have to do them well, and I can still have an impact with them, and I can still have a good attitude, and I can, that's making a difference in the long run.
Mm-hmm.
Even if I hate making a spreadsheet, I can still find the joy in it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, 'cause
it
it's
does
a
make
reflection of
difference.
who you are.
Mhm. Yeah, so I'm
Yeah.
gonna do a good job. I'm not just gonna not change the oil in the lawnmower, but I'm gonna do a good job at what I'm called to do.
Yeah, at some point we're gonna have to hire somebody to do it. Warning lights. He talks about, so what are warning lights? He says difficulty with decision making. I know we talked about that. Increasing allures, which is like temptation, distractions, things that you want to escape from things. So you got to be careful with that. So those are warning signs. Desire for isolation. He says this: solitude is a healthy and prescriptive discipline. Isolation is a symptom of an emotional depletion. Again, solitude is a healthy, prescriptive discipline. Isolation is a symptom of an emotional depletion. We're gonna have to
Isolation is
freaking
like,
quote
I
that
can't,
crap.
I can't do this anymore.
Yep.
Like, I'm shutting down.
When you
That's
start
not solitude.
feeling that way, again, he's saying that's the light on the dashboard. You need to pull over and go, I can't do this. So, find some, and I think the last thing I underlined was, he says pain is inevitable. Every one of us is going to have pain. So pain is inevitable, but misery is not. So,
That's right.
Yeah.
So we got the action steps.
Action steps. Number 1, what can only you accomplish that can not be delegated, ignored, or pushed off onto someone else? So I want you to make a list of those. What can only you accomplish that no one else can do? You can't delegate, I can't delegate fatherhood or being a husband.
That'd be weird.
It would. Number 2, so that's actually step number 1. Number 2 is, what is your 5%? What is it that only you can do? It's almost like the top one, isn't
Well,
it?
but in
this
there,
is
he
more.
talks about like your 5%. You have to decide what is that for you. Like his number 1 was having a growing relationship with God. That may not be one for everybody.
Exactly.
And so if you don't have kids, then being a dad won't be one. So what is it in your life? What relationships is it? What is it that is really important to you?
Yeah, because someone's career a single person may be going, hey, this is my goal.
This is my goal. And I think health, like he used the example for him, which was, his physical body being healthy, while I think that should be a priority for everyone, at some people where you are in your life, it's just not yet.
Yeah.
You know, and so I think that's what you have to decide for you. What is it that's truly, truly important?
Yeah, that's number 2. But also on that note, Adina, I think it's going. You don't have to be doing this right now. This could be going, like you said, my health could be number 3 or 4, and I'm not doing that. But that's where I want to be.
But when I was 23, I don't think I was thinking like I didn't even have that concept in my mind yet. You know, so.
Yeah.
I mean, like I said, it should be for everybody, but.
Number 3, what fills you and what drains you. Make a list. Yeah, he did like 6 and 6. What fills you, what drains you, and are you even doing those things?
Right, and I think that's always a good thing to look at is, you know, is that something that you have to do, or is it something that if you are doing it, how you know that you're going to do it? Okay, so let's put some counteracts in there.
Yeah, and when we talk about what fills you up, think about like maybe you enjoy road trips, maybe you enjoy camping, things that you go, man, if I could do that, fishing, things that. So
schedule those, put them in your calendar.
Exactly. And I think the next chapter I wrote on the top of the page is that it's probably my favorite chapter. So we're going to be moving on next week to chapter 7, 8, 9. So we have 2 more episodes left on this. Again, number 1 on action steps, what can only you accomplish? It cannot be delegated. Number 2, what's your 5%? And number 3, what fills you and what drains you? Make a list of those. So in closing,
Remember?
I think we can just wrap this up. It was a short and to the point podcast.
Yeah, these chapters though were very like chapter 4 was like a list basically, you know, so they were a little bit shorter.
Yeah, but I mean, doing the action steps is what's going to help you.
And that's what I was going to say is that though, you know, where the benefit from this comes is not in listening, although we're very thankful that you listened. You know,
yes,
where it comes in is you taking the time to do some self-evaluation and self-reflection and, you know, doing the action steps, sharing that with somebody, like processing through that and really seeing if you need to make some changes. Because, you know, the reason we're doing this is we know that so many leaders are burned out. So many business owners are burned out. And, you know, that's not what we want for people. Yeah. It's a really, really hard place to be. And if we can help one person get out of that, or if we can help somebody not go over the burnout ledge, then we have done something.
Yeah, and if you're a leader and you're burnt out, then you're probably leading your employees down the same path, and you don't want to do that. You want to be the ripple effect change in a positive way. Yep. So appreciate you guys listening. Check out our website, www.madeformoreconsulting.com. That's the number 4. Continue to subscribe and listen. It was a big week. Again,
it's the biggest week we've ever had.
No, I mean, it was like 230 downloads.
I say he says that. I love that he says that.
I know, it's cool to say
That's
that every
good.
week.
You should.
Yeah,
That's the goal.
I think the thing that excites me is seeing that when someone downloads or listens to all the podcasts, when it says 1, that means, hey, there's a new listener. But when it says 3, it means we have 3 new listeners. And I just continue to say thanks for listening, thanks for supporting us. It does help if you leave us a review, if you subscribe. So thank you guys for that. And again, we appreciate you. Thank you guys for listening and supporting us. And as always, remember, we exist for more. We're here to offer more. Don't ever give up. Every single one of us is made for more. Later. That's short, but good. This book is so freaking challenging. Oh, my bad. What up, YouTube? Appreciate you guys listening. Watching and listening. We'll talk to you guys later. See you.